Imagine a quiet morning in a small Filipino town where the soft murmur of everyday life blends with the distant sound of church bells and the gentle rustling of palm fronds. Have you ever wondered how a simple look or a quiet silence can speak louder than words? In the Philippines, there exists an unspoken language called TAMPO that lingers in the heart of every relationship, quietly shaping interactions between friends, family, and lovers. TAMPO is not merely a fleeting mood or a brief moment of sulking. It is an intricate expression of feelings that carries with it the weight of respect, hurt, and the yearning for understanding. This emotion, deeply rooted in cultural traditions, transforms everyday exchanges into a delicate dance where silence becomes a statement and a pause speaks of deeper emotions that might otherwise remain hidden. People experience TAMPO when a minor slight or an unexpressed disappointment turns into a subtle yet powerful barrier between hearts, creating an unspoken dialogue that only those who live it can fully understand. It is a cultural phenomenon that reveals how Filipinos balance sensitivity with resilience, using TAMPO as a way to protect their inner world while still reaching out for reconnection. As each gentle sigh or thoughtful glance carries its own meaning, TAMPO reminds us that even in moments of quiet withdrawal, there is a hope for reconciliation and a desire to mend what has been strained. With this vivid glimpse into how TAMPO silently governs interactions and emotions, our exploration of this uniquely Filipino expression opens the door to deeper insights into how such subtle behaviors impact everyday relationships, leaving us eager to uncover the next layer of its complex influence. I still remember that rainy afternoon when everything changed for me. I was sitting in a small, cozy cafe in Quezon City, watching raindrops race down the window, when I first encountered the mysterious feeling of TAMPO in my relationship with Mara. At first, I thought it was just a moment of silence between us, a brief pause in our daily conversation. But as days went by, that silence grew heavier, filling the space between us with unspoken words and unresolved tension. I felt a mixture of confusion and hurt, not understanding why something as small as a misunderstanding could create such distance. I had never known that a simple gesture or a slight change in tone could carry so much meaning, and suddenly, every interaction seemed to hide layers of emotions I was not prepared to decode. I began to notice small signals, the way Mara would look away when I tried to talk about our plans, the quiet moments when laughter was replaced by a thoughtful frown, and the gentle, yet unmistakable withdrawal of warmth that used to define our conversations. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? But every time I mustered the courage to ask, her eyes would become guarded, and she would fall silent, leaving me with more questions than answers. My heart ached as I tried to understand this unfamiliar form of communication. I realized that TAMPO was more than just anger or indifference. It was a deep-seated way of expressing hurt and longing for reconciliation, all without the need for harsh words. In my attempts to bridge the gap, I turned to the familiar advice of friends and family. They spoke of how TAMPO was part of the Filipino way of handling conflicts, a gentle reminder that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. However, knowing this did little to ease my inner turmoil. I started reading articles, watching videos, and even trying to mimic the calm approach recommended by elders. Yet, each effort seemed to push Mara further into a quiet world that was both beautiful and impenetrable. I felt like I was standing outside a door, listening to the faint echoes of her feelings, yet unable to step inside and truly understand what she was experiencing. My initial shock gradually turned into a persistent frustration. I would spend hours thinking about every conversation, replaying moments in my mind where perhaps a word left unspoken or a gesture misunderstood could have sparked this growing distance between us. I found myself learning about the intricate cultural tradition of TAMPO, realizing that it was not just a temporary mood, but a carefully cultivated art of managing emotions, a way for someone to protect their pride and guard their vulnerability. This discovery brought with it a mixture of admiration and sorrow. I admired the depth of feeling that TAMPO represented, yet I felt sorrowful because it meant that some parts of our hearts were locked away behind walls of unspoken hurt. The more I tried to reach out, the more I felt that my usual methods of communication were failing me. I recalled our early days filled with laughter, shared secrets, and effortless connection. Now, every conversation was like walking on thin ice. each word potentially shattering the fragile peace that had settled between us. I began to realize that my frustration was not just about resolving a misunderstanding, but also about coming to terms with the reality that relationships are complex, and not every wound can be healed with a simple apology or a reassuring smile. There were moments when I wished I could just see the world through her eyes, to understand the silent language of TAMPO that had taken over our interactions. In this long, winding journey of self-reflection, I found that my heart was both open and closed at the same time, a repository of love and confusion, eager for clarity yet reluctant to face the truth of our changed bond. I sought advice from those who had experienced similar moments, only to be met with responses that ranged from empathetic nods to stories of heartbreak and eventual understanding. I began to see that TAMPO was not an isolated phenomenon. It was a part of a tapestry of Filipino life, a subtle reminder of how we guard our emotions and the delicate balance between pride and love. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, I felt the constant tug of my desire to mend what had been broken, even as the silence grew thicker with every passing day. My attempts to speak directly about the pain behind the quiet were met with only a deeper silence, a reminder that some emotions are meant to be felt rather than spoken. I realized that in this realm of unspoken understanding, every small gesture, every sidelong glance, carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid words, a language that was uniquely Filipino, intricate and sensitive to the very core of human connection. In the midst of all this internal conflict, I was left wondering if there would ever be a moment when the clouds of misunderstanding would part and allow the warmth of open dialogue to seep back into our lives. My heart yearned for that day when the mystery of TAMPO would be unraveled, not through frustration or forced words, but through a natural, heartfelt reconnection that would heal both our wounds. And so, as I sat quietly under the soft glow of a street lamp one cool evening, listening to the distant hum of the city that never quite slept, I couldn't help but feel that the true test of our bond was yet to come, leaving me to ponder what the next chapter of this emotional journey might reveal. TAMPO is a quiet language of the heart, a silent conversation that speaks volumes without the need for harsh words or raised voices. It is a subtle way of expressing hurt and disappointment, a gentle withdrawal that carries both a plea for understanding and a protective measure to guard one's inner feelings. In Filipino culture, where close family ties and warm community relationships are cherished, TAMPO finds its roots in a deep respect for social harmony and a strong sense of interconnectedness among people. Its origins lie in a time when speaking one's mind too directly was seen as potentially disruptive to the delicate balance of relationships, and therefore, the quiet expression of discontent became an artful method of communication. Over the years, TAMPO evolved as a culturally accepted method to convey emotional pain without causing open conflict, allowing individuals to express their feelings in a manner that respects the dignity of all involved. Filipino women, in particular, often find themselves drawn to this practice. Their adoption of TAMPO can be seen as both a reflection of traditional roles and an adaptive response to the complex emotional landscape they navigate daily. Many Filipino women are raised with the understanding that preserving the peace and avoiding overt confrontation are virtues, and thus, when feelings of hurt or disappointment arise, TAMPO offers a nonverbal yet deeply emotional outlet. It is a way for them to communicate their inner turmoil without the directness that might be considered too confrontational or impolite in a culture that values gentleness and subtlety. This practice, deeply embedded in the social fabric, allows women to maintain a sense of grace even in moments of emotional distress, expressing their dissatisfaction in a way that leaves room for eventual reconciliation without the scars of harsh words. The meaning of TAMPO goes beyond mere sulking or a temporary mood. It is a complex emotional state that carries with it layers of cultural significance. It signifies not only a momentary feeling of being wronged, but also an enduring reflection on the importance of respect and understanding in personal relationships. When a person resorts to TAMPO, it is not simply to punish or to create distance. It is a silent cry for acknowledgement, a desire for the other person to notice the subtle shift in behavior and to understand the pain behind the silence. This form of nonverbal communication is deeply tied to the Filipino value of pakikisama, or the importance of smooth interpersonal relationships, where maintaining harmony and avoiding overt conflict are seen as essential parts of daily life. TAMPO, in this sense, acts as a gentle reminder that words are not always necessary to convey complex emotions, and that sometimes the space left by silence can speak more clearly than any declaration. When comparing TAMPO with the approach to conflict in Western cultures, the differences become quite striking. In many Western societies, there is often a strong emphasis on direct communication and confrontation as a means of resolving disputes. Western cultural norms tend to value honesty and openness, where expressing one's feelings directly is seen as both healthy and necessary for growth and resolution. In contrast, TAMPO is characterized by its subtlety. It is less about confrontation and more about a quiet withdrawal that leaves the other party to ponder what might have gone wrong. While a Western approach might encourage a person to say, "I feel hurt because of what you said," the practice of TAMPO might manifest as a prolonged silence, a change in demeanor, or a noticeable absence of affection, leaving the other person to intuit the underlying pain without a direct verbal explanation. This indirect method of expressing discontent is deeply intertwined with the social norms that govern Filipino interactions. It reflects a cultural preference for preserving face and avoiding the embarrassment that can come with public confrontation. In many cases, TAMPO allows individuals to maintain their self-respect and the respect of others by not airing their grievances in a way that could lead to shame or conflict. It is a form of communication that, while it may seem passive or even confusing to outsiders, actually carries a rich emotional vocabulary understood by those who share the cultural context. The subtlety of TAMPO encourages a kind of empathy and attentiveness, prompting the person on the receiving end to reflect on their actions and to consider the unspoken message conveyed through a simple shift in behavior. Filipino women, in particular, are often seen as the keepers of this delicate emotional balance. They have traditionally been expected to uphold the values of modesty, patience, and deference in family and community settings. In a society where maintaining harmonious relationships is paramount, adopting TAMPO becomes a way to communicate dissatisfaction without causing public discord. It allows them to express their inner feelings without directly challenging the established social order, thereby preserving the respect and unity that are so highly valued. This is not to say that TAMPO is without its drawbacks, as the indirect nature of the communication can sometimes lead to misunderstandings and prolonged periods of emotional distance. However, it is also a reflection of the Filipino way of valuing nonverbal cues and the belief that silence, when filled with meaning, can be as powerful as spoken words. The origins of TAMPO are deeply entwined with the Filipino experience of colonization and cultural exchange, where indigenous practices blended with the influences of Spanish and American rule. Over time, these interactions led to a unique blend of cultural norms that prize both resilience and gentle self-expression. In this historical context, TAMPO emerged as a means of protecting one's emotional well-being while still adhering to the collective values of the community. It is a coping mechanism that has been passed down through generations, a quiet but potent expression of personal dignity that resonates with many Filipinos today. This historical backdrop not only adds layers of meaning to the practice, but also explains why TAMPO remains an enduring aspect of Filipino identity, continuously shaping how emotions are communicated in both personal and social contexts. In contrast to the Western tendency to address conflicts head-on, TAMPO encourages a reflective pause that leaves room for introspection and eventual understanding. Western methods, which often involve frank discussions and immediate attempts at resolution, can sometimes overlook the underlying emotional currents that TAMPO so carefully preserves. The Filipino approach, with its emphasis on subtlety and indirect communication, highlights a cultural belief that true understanding often requires patience and a willingness to read between the lines. This difference in conflict resolution styles reveals much about the values of each culture. Where Westerners may see confrontation as a path to clarity and resolution, Filipinos may view it as a potential threat to the harmony of the relationship, preferring instead to allow time for emotions to settle and for the unspoken to eventually find its way into mutual understanding. The practice of TAMPO, therefore, is not merely a method of avoiding conflict, but a deeply rooted cultural expression that reflects centuries of collective experience. It is a living tradition that continues to influence how relationships are managed, offering both a challenge and a form of comfort to those who embrace it. The quiet nature of TAMPO, with its reliance on nonverbal cues and gentle gestures, invites those involved to look beyond the surface and to consider the complexities of emotion and connection that define the Filipino way of life. As we explore the many layers of TAMPO and its impact on interpersonal relationships, it becomes clear that this unique cultural expression holds many insights into the ways in which we all navigate the delicate dance of love, respect, and understanding. And with each quiet gesture and subtle glance, the story of TAMPO unfolds further, leaving us curious about how these ancient traditions continue to shape modern life and what new revelations might emerge as we delve deeper into its influence on everyday interactions. In the heart of every Filipino interaction lies a delicate balance between emotion and restraint, and the concept of TAMPO embodies this balance in a way that is both profound and subtle. TAMPO is more than a fleeting mood or a temporary state of sulking. It is a psychological strategy deeply ingrained in the cultural fabric of the Philippines, where emotions are expressed in ways that preserve harmony and respect within relationships. At its core, TAMPO is an emotional withdrawal that serves as a silent protest against perceived neglect or hurt, particularly in the context of intimate relationships. It is a way for someone, often women, to communicate their inner pain without resorting to direct confrontation, using silence and subtle cues to indicate that something is amiss. This indirect form of communication is born out of a psychological need to protect one's vulnerabilities while still expressing a desire for the relationship to return to its harmonious state. The roots of TAMPO can be traced back to a societal expectation that values modesty, patience, and a non-confrontational approach to conflict resolution. Many Filipino women are raised in an environment where open displays of anger or dissatisfaction are discouraged because such expressions are believed to disrupt the delicate balance of familial and social relationships. Instead, they learn to internalize their feelings and express them through more subdued means, such as a change in demeanor or a withdrawal of affection. This psychological strategy is not merely about avoiding conflict, it is also about preserving dignity and self-respect in a society that places high value on maintaining personal honor and collective harmony. For many women, TAMPO becomes a tool to assert their feelings without overtly challenging the status quo, thereby creating a space where the emotional undercurrents of the relationship can be acknowledged without sparking an immediate and potentially disruptive argument. The psychological aspects of TAMPO are deeply intertwined with the human need for connection and validation. When a woman resorts to TAMPO, it is often a sign that she feels emotionally hurt or neglected, and her silence is a way of saying, "I need you to notice me and understand my pain." This silent plea is not intended to punish the other person, but rather to invite reflection and empathy. In many cases, the act of TAMPO is a manifestation of the internal struggle between the desire for closeness and the need to protect oneself from further hurt. The quiet withdrawal can create a temporary emotional distance, allowing the individual to process her feelings and evaluate the relationship from a more introspective perspective. However, this same withdrawal can also lead to misunderstandings if the other party is not attuned to the unspoken signals, which may result in prolonged periods of uncertainty and emotional tension. Filipino women, in particular, may use TAMPO as a way to navigate the complexities of their emotional lives. The strategy is often seen as a coping mechanism, a method to deal with the inevitable moments of disappointment that occur in any relationship. Psychologically, TAMPO offers a sense of control in situations where direct expression of hurt might lead to confrontation or even further emotional pain. By choosing to remain silent, these women create a safe space in which their emotions can exist without the immediate risk of rejection or conflict. This approach, however, carries with it both benefits and drawbacks. On one hand, TAMPO can allow for a period of self-reflection and introspection, giving the individual time to understand her own feelings and the dynamics of the relationship. On the other hand, the ambiguity inherent in TAMPO can lead to misinterpretations, leaving the partner unaware of the true depth of the hurt or unsure of how to respond in a way that is both compassionate and effective. In contrast to the psychological strategies employed by Filipino women, Filipino men often find themselves in a different emotional space when confronted with TAMPO. Many Filipino men are brought up in a cultural context that values directness and resilience, albeit in a subtle form. While they are also influenced by the overarching desire to maintain harmony, their approach to conflict tends to be more action-oriented. When faced with a partner who is practicing TAMPO, Filipino men might initially respond with confusion or even frustration, as they are used to more overt forms of communication. The indirect nature of TAMPO can leave them feeling powerless, as the usual strategies of direct confrontation or immediate problem-solving seem ineffective in addressing the silent emotional cues. Over time, however, some Filipino men learn to appreciate the nuances of this communication style, recognizing that the withdrawal of affection or the change in behavior is not a personal attack, but rather a call for understanding and emotional connection. This learning curve, though often steep and fraught with initial misunderstandings, can lead to a deeper awareness of the emotional complexities within a relationship. When we turn our gaze to Western cultures, the contrast in handling such emotional expressions becomes even more apparent. In many Western societies, there is a strong emphasis on open and direct communication as the preferred method for resolving conflicts. Western men, influenced by cultural norms that celebrate assertiveness and individual expression, are often more accustomed to addressing issues head-on. They might find the passive nature of TAMPO perplexing, as it does not provide a clear, verbal explanation of what is wrong. The expectation in these cultures is that any emotional hurt should be communicated directly, with explicit statements of feelings such as, "I am hurt because of what you did." This direct approach aims to swiftly resolve conflicts and restore balance, but it may sometimes overlook the deeper, more nuanced emotional undercurrents that TAMPO encapsulates. While the direct method can lead to quick resolutions, it can also inadvertently suppress the need for reflection and the acknowledgement of subtler emotional cues that are essential for long-term understanding and connection. The difference in these approaches can have varied effects on relationships. In relationships where TAMPO is present, the indirect communication method can sometimes lead to prolonged periods of emotional distance if the partner fails to pick up on the subtle cues. This can be particularly challenging in mixed cultural relationships, where one partner might be more inclined towards direct expression while the other relies on the quiet language of TAMPO. The result can be a cycle of miscommunication, where the hurt partner feels ignored or misunderstood, and the other feels unjustly blamed for a situation they cannot see clearly. However, when both partners manage to appreciate and respect each other's communication styles, the blend of directness and subtlety can foster a deeper, more empathetic connection. In such cases, the challenge of decoding TAMPO can lead to a greater understanding of each other's emotional landscapes, ultimately strengthening the bond by encouraging both partners to be more attuned to nonverbal expressions and the unspoken needs that underpin their relationship. The psychological underpinnings of TAMPO also reveal a broader truth about human relationships in general. At its heart, TAMPO is about the human desire to be seen and understood, to have one's feelings acknowledged even when they are expressed in the most understated manner. This need for recognition is universal, transcending cultural boundaries, yet the way it is fulfilled can vary significantly. In the Filipino context, the art of TAMPO serves as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful expressions of emotion do not come through words, but through the quiet spaces between them. For many Filipino women, this method of emotional expression is a way to safeguard their sensitivity and maintain a sense of dignity in the face of interpersonal challenges. It is a means of communicating that, even in silence, there is a rich tapestry of emotions waiting to be understood, a tapestry woven with threads of pride, hurt, love, and the longing for connection. On the other side of the spectrum, Western methods of dealing with emotional hurt through direct communication can sometimes miss the subtle beauty of unspoken feelings. When emotions are laid bare in explicit terms, there is less room for the introspection and gentle reflection that TAMPO encourages. While direct communication undoubtedly has its advantages in terms of clarity and immediate resolution, it can also risk oversimplifying complex emotional states. The nuanced way in which TAMPO allows for a gradual unveiling of feelings, one that is paced by the individual's readiness to share, offers a stark contrast to the immediacy demanded by direct verbal expression. This contrast often leads to a richer, though sometimes more complicated, emotional interplay in relationships, where TAMPO is a familiar language, as both partners learn to navigate the space between spoken words and the silence that speaks just as loudly. The interplay between these different psychological approaches to handling conflict and emotional hurt highlights the importance of cultural sensitivity in understanding human behavior. In a relationship, whether between Filipino partners or between individuals from different cultural backgrounds, the ability to recognize and respect these differences can be a powerful tool in building a lasting connection. For Filipino women who use TAMPO as a means of expressing their innermost feelings, the strategy is both a protective mechanism and a call for empathy, inviting their partners to look beyond the surface and to appreciate the complexity of their emotional experiences. For Filipino men, adapting to this indirect form of communication can be a challenging yet ultimately rewarding process, one that enriches the relationship by deepening the understanding of nonverbal cues and the subtle language of the heart. As we reflect on these psychological dimensions, it becomes clear that TAMPO is not merely a passive reaction to hurt, but a dynamic process that can shape the course of a relationship in profound ways. It influences how emotions are expressed and interpreted, creating a unique dialogue that is as much about what is left unsaid as it is about the words that are spoken. The tension between the need for direct communication and the cultural preference for subtlety often leads to a delicate balancing act, where both partners must learn to navigate the complexities of emotional expression in a way that honors their individual experiences while fostering mutual understanding. In some cases, the artful use of TAMPO can even lead to moments of deep connection, where the unspoken language of silence brings about a realization of shared vulnerabilities and unexpressed love. Yet, this delicate balance can also tilt towards misunderstanding if one partner fails to recognize the silent signals, leaving the relationship in a state of unresolved tension. Through the lens of psychology, the phenomenon of TAMPO reveals the intricate ways in which cultural upbringing, gender roles, and personal experiences converge to shape emotional behavior. It is a reminder that every expression of hurt, whether voiced loudly or conveyed through a quiet withdrawal, carries with it a story of personal resilience and the need for acknowledgement. In relationships, this dynamic can be both a source of strength and a challenge to overcome, as it requires both partners to attune themselves not only to the spoken word but also to the language of the heart. With each silent pause and each subtle change in expression, TAMPO invites us to look deeper into the ways we communicate our needs and our pain, offering a glimpse into a world where emotions are as complex as they are beautiful. And so, as we continue to explore the layers of human interaction and the intricate dance of emotions within relationships, the conversation turns to how these psychological insights can lead to practical strategies for bridging the gap between silence and understanding, leaving us eager to delve further into the ways in which we might learn to interpret and respond to the quiet signals that so profoundly shape our connections with one another. In many Filipino relationships, TAMPO is not merely an emotion that arises in the heat of a moment, but a deeply rooted behavior that can be managed with careful thought and understanding. Over time, couples have learned that while TAMPO may seem like an insurmountable obstacle, there are effective strategies and solutions that can help transform this quiet withdrawal into an opportunity for deeper connection and improved communication. One approach that has proven helpful is to encourage honest and gentle conversations that invite both partners to express their feelings openly, even when those feelings are hidden beneath layers of silence. When a partner practices TAMPO, it is often a sign that there is an unspoken need for acknowledgement and understanding. Therefore, creating an environment in which both individuals feel safe to share their vulnerabilities without the fear of immediate conflict is an important first step. This means choosing moments when both are calm, away from the heat of any argument, and engaging in conversation with a genuine interest in understanding the source of the hurt. It is common for couples to find that scheduling regular, dedicated times to talk can gradually break down the walls that TAMPO creates. For example, a couple might decide to spend an evening together in a quiet setting, perhaps after dinner, where each person takes a turn speaking about their feelings without interruption. In this setting, the partner who has been silent for days may feel more encouraged to share what has been weighing on her heart, knowing that her voice will be heard and respected. Likewise, the partner who might initially be confused by the silent treatment can learn to ask gentle, non-accusatory questions that invite explanation rather than provoke further withdrawal. A simple inquiry such as, "I noticed you have been quiet lately. Can you tell me what has been bothering you?" can open the door to a more meaningful dialogue. By creating a routine where open expression is expected and welcomed, couples can work together to defuse the tension that TAMPO may cause. Another effective strategy is to focus on nonverbal cues and small gestures that can help bridge the gap between silence and conversation. Sometimes, actions speak louder than words, and a reassuring touch, a shared smile, or even a written note can convey care and concern when spoken words fail. A gentle pat on the back or a warm embrace can signal that, despite the current distance, the bond remains intact and that there is a willingness to work through the issues together. For instance, when a woman resorts to TAMPO, it might be because she feels that her subtle signals have not been recognized by her partner. In such cases, a thoughtful gesture like leaving a handwritten message that says, "I care about you and want to understand what you feel," can encourage her partner to lower his defenses and engage in a heartfelt conversation. These small yet significant acts of kindness create an atmosphere where both partners feel valued, reducing the likelihood that TAMPO will escalate into a prolonged period of emotional distance. Moreover, self-reflection plays a crucial role in addressing the challenges posed by TAMPO. Both partners must take time to look inward and understand their own emotions before they can effectively respond to each other. This may involve recognizing personal triggers and the ways in which one's own behavior might unintentionally contribute to the development of TAMPO. For example, a man may realize that his tendency to dismiss minor grievances or his inability to notice subtle changes in his partner's demeanor can leave her feeling isolated. By acknowledging this, he can make a conscious effort to be more attuned to her needs, such as by checking in with her more frequently or by asking her how her day went in a way that invites more than just a routine reply. Similarly, a woman who practices TAMPO might benefit from understanding the underlying emotions that lead her to withdraw rather than speak out. Whether these feelings stem from past experiences, societal expectations, or personal insecurities, exploring them can help her articulate her needs more clearly and work towards resolving the underlying issues. The role of education in fostering better communication cannot be underestimated. Couples can benefit greatly from workshops or counseling sessions that focus on relationship dynamics and emotional intelligence. Such programs often emphasize the importance of active listening and empathy, two skills that are essential in understanding and overcoming TAMPO. When both partners commit to learning and practicing these skills, the result is a relationship in which conflicts are seen not as a sign of failure, but as an opportunity for growth. In practice, this might mean that during a counseling session, a couple practices techniques such as reflective listening, where one partner repeats what they have heard in their own words, to ensure that both feel understood. This process not only clarifies misunderstandings, but also fosters a sense of mutual respect and emotional safety. When couples take the time to learn these strategies together, they create a shared language that can significantly diminish the negative impact of TAMPO on their relationship. In addition to these interpersonal strategies, the influence of cultural factors also plays a significant role in how TAMPO is managed. Filipino culture, with its emphasis on respect, harmony, and indirect communication, often means that couples need to navigate a delicate balance between personal expression and cultural expectations. This can be particularly challenging when one partner, influenced by more direct communication styles, whether from a Western background or from personal experiences, tries to address issues head-on. The solution in such situations is to blend both approaches, finding a middle ground where directness does not override sensitivity and where subtlety does not prevent clarity. For example, a Filipino man who is more accustomed to direct communication might be encouraged to soften his approach by using phrases that acknowledge his partner's feelings, such as, "I understand that you might be upset, and I want to know how I can help you feel better." In response, his partner might gradually feel more comfortable lowering her guard, and together they can work towards a resolution that honors both the need for direct expression and the cultural preference for subtlety. Another practical example of overcoming TAMPO involves engaging in shared activities that naturally encourage open communication. Couples might decide to take a walk together in a park or enjoy a quiet evening at home with a favorite movie, using these moments as opportunities to reconnect without the pressure of a formal conversation. These shared experiences can often lead to spontaneous and organic discussions, where the focus is not solely on addressing conflict but on enjoying each other's company. In such relaxed environments, the partner who has been withdrawn may feel more inclined to share her thoughts gradually, as the pressure to confront the issue head-on is reduced by the comforting presence of the other. As trust and understanding grow through these shared moments, the negative effects of TAMPO can diminish, replaced by a renewed sense of connection and mutual care. The concept of compromise is also a valuable tool in managing TAMPO within relationships. Often, the key to resolving the tension lies in both partners being willing to meet halfway, where one acknowledges the need for a period of silence to process emotions, while the other commits to gently probing and offering support without being intrusive. This balance of space and attention can be seen in everyday situations, such as when a couple agrees that if one partner feels upset, she will take a short walk or write down her thoughts for a while, and in return, the other partner promises to check in after a set time to see if she is ready to talk. Such mutual agreements, even if informal, help to establish a rhythm that respects the emotional processes of both individuals. This rhythm not only prevents TAMPO from becoming a source of prolonged conflict, but also reinforces the idea that both partners are invested in the well-being of the relationship. By agreeing on a strategy that includes both personal space and scheduled check-ins, couples can effectively manage the tension that TAMPO might bring. Communication techniques that focus on non-blaming language also play a critical role in addressing TAMPO. When emotions run high, it is easy for conversations to shift into a pattern of blame and defensiveness, which only serves to widen the emotional gap. Instead, using I statements that express one's feelings without accusing the other can be incredibly helpful. For instance, rather than saying, "You never listen to me," a partner might say, "I feel hurt when I do not feel heard." This small shift in language makes it easier for the other partner to respond with empathy rather than defensiveness. In practice, a couple might find that over time, incorporating such language into their daily interactions leads to fewer misunderstandings and a stronger sense of mutual respect. The focus becomes not on who is at fault, but on understanding the shared goal of maintaining a healthy, loving relationship. Furthermore, mindfulness and stress reduction techniques can provide individual support that contributes to resolving the larger issue of TAMPO. When one partner is able to manage stress and become more aware of her own emotional state, it becomes easier to communicate her feelings in a clear and constructive way. Techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, or even simple physical activities like walking or stretching can help create a calm internal state that makes it easier to approach sensitive topics with clarity. As each partner develops greater emotional self-awareness, the likelihood of misunderstandings decreases, and the couple can work together to address issues before they grow into full-blown TAMPO. These personal strategies, when combined with mutual efforts to improve communication, can create an environment where emotional well-being is prioritized, leading to healthier and more resilient relationships. The role of forgiveness and letting go also emerges as an essential aspect of overcoming TAMPO. In relationships where TAMPO is a recurring theme, holding on to past grievances can create a cycle of resentment that undermines trust and connection. Learning to forgive, both oneself and one's partner, is a gradual process that involves recognizing that mistakes and misunderstandings are a natural part of any long-term relationship. For example, if a partner realizes that she has been practicing TAMPO as a way of dealing with hurt, she might choose to discuss her feelings openly with her partner and express her willingness to move forward, leaving behind the burden of past wounds. This act of forgiveness does not erase the hurt entirely, but it creates space for healing and encourages both partners to focus on rebuilding their bond rather than dwelling on what went wrong. In time, this process of forgiving and letting go can become a vital component of the couple's overall strategy for managing conflict and ensuring that TAMPO does not derail their relationship. In everyday life, couples who have successfully managed TAMPO often find that small, consistent efforts to stay connected make a big difference over time. A husband and wife might develop their own unique rituals, perhaps starting their mornings with a shared cup of coffee and a few moments of quiet conversation, or ending their day by expressing gratitude for one another. These rituals, though seemingly simple, serve as anchors in the relationship, reminding both partners that their bond is built on ongoing care and mutual respect. By integrating these habits into daily life, couples create an atmosphere where feelings are shared naturally and the silent treatment of TAMPO loses its power to create long-lasting distance. The regular practice of gratitude, kindness, and open dialogue gradually replaces the uncertainty and anxiety that can accompany unresolved tension, fostering an environment where both partners feel valued and understood. Even in moments of disagreement, finding ways to laugh together or reminisce about happier times can help diffuse the intensity of the situation. Humor, when used appropriately, can serve as a gentle reminder that the relationship is bigger than any single conflict. A lighthearted joke or a shared memory can momentarily bridge the gap caused by TAMPO, offering both partners a chance to reconnect and remember the warmth that brought them together in the first place. In many cases, these small, joyful interludes pave the way for more serious discussions later on, when both partners feel ready to address the underlying issues in a calm and constructive manner. As couples continue to navigate the complexities of TAMPO, they often discover that the key lies in viewing every challenge as an opportunity for growth rather than as a threat. The process of learning to decode silent signals and to respond with empathy requires patience and persistence, but it also offers the reward of a deeper, more resilient bond. Each instance of overcoming TAMPO becomes a building block in a larger foundation of trust and mutual understanding, where both partners learn more about themselves and about the subtle ways in which love and care are expressed. The journey is not always easy, and setbacks may occur, yet the commitment to fostering open communication and genuine connection remains the guiding principle that leads couples forward. In this ongoing process of mutual learning and adaptation, the importance of celebrating even the smallest victories cannot be overstated. When a partner takes the brave step to break her silence and express her hurt, and the other responds with kindness rather than judgment, it reinforces the belief that the relationship is a safe space for emotional expression. These moments of shared understanding and connection create a positive feedback loop, encouraging both partners to continue investing in their emotional health and in the relationship as a whole. As they learn to navigate the quiet spaces of TAMPO with both sensitivity and firmness, couples gradually build a repertoire of strategies that not only mitigate conflict, but also enrich the fabric of their daily lives together. And so, as we consider the many strategies and solutions that help manage TAMPO, from regular communication routines and nonverbal gestures to mindfulness, forgiveness, and shared rituals, it becomes evident that the journey toward a healthy relationship is one of continuous learning and adaptation. The subtle art of balancing silence with open dialogue and individual introspection with mutual care reveals the transformative potential of understanding one another deeply. With each step taken and each strategy put into practice, couples discover that the challenges posed by TAMPO can be met with effective and nurturing solutions that pave the way for a more harmonious future. As we look ahead to the next stage in our exploration, we are invited to examine how these insights into communication and emotional resilience can further deepen the bonds that hold relationships together, opening new avenues for connection and growth. As we reach the end of this journey into the heart of our discussion, it is important to reflect on the many layers we have uncovered and the ways in which communication and cultural understanding form the foundation of every relationship. In our exploration, we have seen that the art of exchanging feelings, whether through spoken words or silent expressions like TAMPO, holds a power that goes far beyond the surface of everyday conversation. It reminds us that behind every quiet moment and every pause in our interactions lies a complex tapestry of emotions, traditions, and personal experiences that shape the way we connect with one another. This video has been a celebration of that intricate dance, a call to look deeper at the ways in which we communicate our inner selves and the cultural norms that influence our behavior. We have witnessed how TAMPO, a silent language deeply embedded in Filipino culture, offers a unique perspective on emotional expression and conflict resolution. It is a reminder that, sometimes, what is not said can be just as important as what is spoken. Through TAMPO, we learn that communication is not always about direct confrontation or clear-cut explanations, but rather about the subtle signals that speak of love, hurt, hope, and the longing for connection. These signals remind us that every relationship, whether between friends, family members, or romantic partners, thrives on understanding and empathy, a process that requires both patience and a willingness to listen with our hearts as much as with our ears. In our everyday lives, Many of us find ourselves caught up in the rush of modern communication, where messages are often delivered in haste and emotions can be misunderstood amidst the noise of our busy schedules. Yet, the essence of what we have discussed today urges us to slow down and appreciate the quiet moments that reveal so much about who we are. It is in these moments of silence, when the unspoken words float gently between us, that we have the chance to build bridges of understanding and strengthen the bonds that tie us together. The power of communication lies not only in the words we choose, but in the respect and cultural insight we bring to each interaction. This awareness can transform conflicts into opportunities for growth and foster relationships that are resilient in the face of challenges. The importance of cultural understanding in shaping our communication styles cannot be underestimated. In the Philippines, cultural traditions like TAMPO have evolved over generations, reflecting a deep-seated respect for harmony and the delicate balance between individual feelings and communal well-being. These traditions remind us that every culture has its own way of handling conflict and expressing emotion, and that there is beauty in the diversity of these approaches. When we take the time to understand the cultural roots of behaviors like TAMPO, we open ourselves up to a world of empathy and shared experience. It encourages us to ask questions like, "What might the silence be telling me?" Or, "How can I offer my support without overwhelming the other person?" In doing so, we not only become better communicators but also more compassionate human beings who appreciate the rich variety of ways in which love and care can be shown. As we reflect on the role of communication in our relationships, we are reminded that every conversation is an opportunity, a moment where we can choose to be present, to listen, and to offer genuine understanding. It is through these moments that we learn to navigate the complexities of our emotions, to decode the subtle cues that our loved ones send our way, and to respond in ways that nurture and heal. Whether it is through a heartfelt apology, a reassuring touch, or simply the act of pausing to really listen, every effort to bridge the gap between silence and expression helps to build a stronger, more resilient connection. In this light, communication becomes not just a tool for resolving conflict, but a continuous, evolving dialogue that sustains our relationships over time. We also recognize that every person's experience is unique, and that the ways in which we express our emotions can vary greatly from one individual to another. Some of us may find comfort in direct and open conversations, while others may prefer the quiet intimacy of nonverbal cues and gentle gestures. There is no single right way to communicate. Rather, it is the willingness to understand and respect these differences that ultimately enriches our connections. In sharing our stories and our experiences, we invite others to join in a collective journey of discovery, where every comment, every shared experience, and every thoughtful reflection contributes to a larger conversation about love, respect, and the importance of understanding one another. I invite you, dear viewer, to share your own experiences in the comments below. Tell us about the moments when you felt truly heard, when a simple gesture or a quiet moment made all the difference in your relationship. Your stories are the threads that weave together our community, each one adding depth and color to the fabric of our shared understanding. It is through your experiences that we can learn to appreciate the many ways in which communication, both spoken and unspoken, shapes our lives. When you share your thoughts and reflections, you help to create a space where every voice matters and every story contributes to a richer, more compassionate dialogue. As we wrap up this video, remember that the journey to better communication is ongoing. It is a path filled with opportunities to learn, to grow, and to connect more deeply with those we care about. Whether you find yourself in a moment of silence or in the midst of a lively conversation, know that every interaction is a chance to practice empathy and to build bridges of understanding that can last a lifetime. In a world that sometimes feels divided by misunderstandings and conflict, let us all strive to be ambassadors of kindness and clarity, bringing a little more light into each other's lives through every word we speak and every silence we embrace. Before we part ways, take a moment to reflect on how cultural insights and the power of communication have influenced your own relationships. How have you navigated the quiet moments and the unspoken signals in your life? I encourage you to like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe to our channel for more content that delves into the heart of human connection, and share this video with friends and family who might also benefit from a deeper understanding of these important issues. Your engagement not only helps spread these ideas, but also builds a community where cultural wisdom and modern perspectives come together in a beautiful, ongoing conversation. As we look to the future, let us remain curious and open to the lessons that every interaction brings, whether through words or silence, laughter or quiet reflection. The path of understanding is never fully complete, and each day offers a new chance to learn something valuable about ourselves and the people we love. In our next video, we will dive even deeper into the transformative power of empathy and explore how embracing our differences can lead to a more harmonious and connected world. Until then, keep the conversation alive, keep sharing your thoughts, and remember that every voice matters in this journey of understanding and connection.